Congressman Mike Rogers, the congressman from Michigan who is just retiring, is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and he has a massive conflict of interest when it comes to Benghazi. And that conflict of interest may be responsible for the slow, glacial pace of the Republicans moving on the Benghazi scandal. Rogers is investigating basically a number of issues, but one of them is why the security situation in the Benghazi compound was so weak and so compromised. Well, his wife, Christy Clemens Rogers, was the head of the company that had the contract to provide security to all U.S. embassies and consulates around the world, including Benghazi. So there's a direct conflict of interest. In effect, he's investigating the adequacy of the preparations made by the company his wife headed. She's since left Aegis, the Aegis company, which was a British-based company that initially was an arms supplier and then became increasingly a contract military service that got a $10 billion 5-year contract from the U.S. State Department to provide security at all of its consulates and embassies around the world. And Christy Clemens Rogers, the wife of Rogers, the chairman of the committee, was the CEO of the company at the time. She's since left. Now, what a conflict of interest that is. Now, members of the House Intelligence Committee have been wondering why Rogers has been so slow in moving ahead with this investigation. And you may have noticed last week when he finally got around to holding hearings. In public, he asked the questions that had to be asked, but the real heavy lifting, the real sound bites that were important from that hearing came from Michelle Bachmann and Peter King, a congresswoman from Minnesota and from New York State. In private, a lot of the members of the committee had been pressuring Roberts to move ahead more aggressively on Benghazi, and there have been calls for at least a year for a special committee to investigate Benghazi, which Boehner has resisted. I didn't know why there were these calls for a special committee, and I didn't know why Rogers was really slow-walking this investigation. But a lot of the people on the committee in private think that that conflict of interest with his wife may have been a key factor in it. I mean, what business does a U.S. congressman have being in charge of investigating Benghazi when his wife was in charge of giving security protection to Benghazi? The technical thing is Aegis, the company she had, subcontracted to Blue Mountain, which is the company that was in charge of security at the Benghazi compound. These kinds of conflict of interest, spousal conflicts, are increasingly common in Washington. They're really a way to circumvent laws against conflict of interest, and the laws need to be tightened, but at some point you have to rely on a member's sense of integrity and common sense, and I think Mike Rogers may have failed that test. Thank you.